Welcome again to Wickerson Studios. I'm going to show you a little bit of what I'm doing, and it's not that difficult. I am going into very basic Rhino developer web page, looking at the samples in Python that Steve Barris put together. Here's an example of a nice script on how to add a circle, and you can run through it yourself. You need a center, a radius, and then the centers generator. And then he does write this script in that if in script context, which has to be changed to Rhino, Rhino doc and active doc. If you want to actually bake it into Rhino, which is something that I'm having fun doing, I just kind of meandered and found my way there in time. But cut that script. You can test it if you want in your tools and in your Python editor if you want. I'm not even bothering. I'm going right in. You can see here. This is the sample script, so I think I actually call that the base script. So let's just grab that because I'm doing this several times, and just bring that down and add that to here. So I've got a base script here that works, and it will run an IronPython runtime function. What I have to do in there in this script, if I close this one, and you see that just baked, which is kind of pretty. That's pretty cool. Basically, I have to change out, and it told me to do this, Rhino doc, active doc instead of script context doc. So I probably can get rid of that import if I had to, because I'm using Rhino commands out of Rhino. That's done. That script works fine. So what I do is I jump in here, and like I said, when you see a new script, it's going to say red, and the first thing you want to do with the red is double click on that and take a look at your Python script. So what I did here was basically write the same script again. So it would generate, and every time I run it, you'll see what happens. Test it. It doesn't have to actually, nothing has to actually happen, because I'm in my turntable. Let me get rid of that, and you can see when I run it, it generates those circles and runs that script. I also put in the Grasshopper doc by bringing in C. I just pulled out of the function C equals Rhino geometry circle center radius. So what I did there was just brought it in so I can actually get my circles instead of just producing a bunch of Python runtime Python functions, and those are actually parametric and set to 75. So I could bring that down to say 27, and that would just generate to this point, which is fine. I kind of like it taller. We have an amplification on the Z. Got an amplification on the Y through a cosine of a range. So what I can do is go in here and grab and edit and roll this down to like 4, and you'll see that that's a much thinner circle right there. And I could amplify that if I wanted to, take that up to 20, maybe pull that up to 14. You'll see you get a much wider script. So you've got some really cool control on that. And then I've got a multiplier what was going? That 14 was traveling down and being the radius, but we also could change the amplification. I'm sorry, I was confused with my inputs. Let's pull this one out and just change this one up to, say, 7. We'll see how that changes the script as well and amplifies it and makes it much thinner and makes it more wobbly. And it's, of course, just playing with these. So if I chose to swap out X, that's going to really fudge things up. Pull it over here on an angle off in this direction. And if I change that Y over to here and pull my X over to here, you see I can generate it over in that direction. So you just kind of fudging around your numbers and having fun. Of course, I can't remember where it was, so let's try and get it back to where it was. There it was. And it's baking circles the whole time. Every time I do that, I'm baking these circles in. So it becomes this big monstrosity and mess, as you can see. And this was me just extracting the circles and moving them over because they're baking, so I can move them around and take them wherever I want. So I can get rid of that one. So you have your ghosted form. And then over here I have a baked, I went into my Grasshopper and actually baked a one rendering that I kind of liked of that tube. And that was because instead of just pulling out the runtime Python functions, I wanted to pull out the circles, and the circles can come into here. And I don't know if it'll loft through I didn't think so. Never does. You can't loft through a panel. It just tells you the data. So you have to kind of redirect it here. You could always pull this data out and plug it in there and have that down here. That's probably more appropriate for what I'm doing. And technically, you could just do that, and then we're right back to where we were. Just bring it right back in here and eliminate that. So that's what I actually took the bake of. So I can take another quick bake of that, put it into something else. There it is, generated again. And I throw that into a little emap if I felt like it. So I'll just throw an analyze on there, and we'll do a curvature analysis. And there we go. We get this really wobbly, kind of crazy, colorful form next to that green form. And that's it. Pretty fun. I'm loving it. Simple scripts applied. I've found a way to pull out my data so I can actually have my Grasshopper. And nobody's teaching me this. I am just playing and I am going forward. I'm doing this for a ton of functions, and this will be, of course, be the customized. So you've got the base script that's coming out of Steve Baer's work, and then I customize them into interesting things, unless they get too tricky for me. This child layer works, but I have yet to figure out what exactly I'm doing in here and why am I making child layers on top of layers. I think that's tied to layers, and I could wrap my head around it, but because it's not really geometry based, I'm just going to let that one lie and probably go to bed at night and not lose too much sleep over it. But I didn't want to leave it out of there because as I run through these scripts and go through them, I want to go pretty much in order. So we'll jump back into our Rhino developer. We'll head back over to where we were. We did the circle. We'll do a clipping frame, which actually looks pretty exciting. You can go into Python. The only problem is Steve Baer hasn't done all the Python scripts, and I'm not a great C programmer, so I'm going to test my hand at turning C script into Python script, which is probably maybe easier than going Python into C. I'm not really sure. C sharp, but this one should be pretty fun. I can pull that one over, export that, copy it, and this will be our add clipping plane. And I'll get that ready for the next tutorial, and I'm sure I'll be creative with it. I really like this idea, ending up with a Python node, and to me they seem like little tiny, well, they're functions, but they seem like exactly what a function should be. It's just this, I'm having trouble here, I think, because it's running every time I move it. This is interesting. My thing's flipped out a little bit on me. I can't, either my mouse just broke or I'm not able to move anything that's in here. It could be that I have an active script open, but I don't think so. Anyway, kind of fudged out. I'll just zoom out to everything there. And we'll just plug through, and I call it GHPython nodes. Let's give it the full name. Play at Wickerson Studios. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.